Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Power of Listening. Today, we're gonna listen to the story of Who Moved My Cheese. This was created by Dr. Spencer Johnson to help him deal with a difficult change in his life. It showed him how to take his changing situation seriously, but not take himself so seriously. When his friends noticed how much better life had become for him and asked why, he revealed his cheese story. Several said, sometimes years later, how hearing the story helped them to keep their sense of humor, to change, and to gain something better themselves. His co author of The 1 Minute Manager, Ken Blanchard, encouraged him to finally write it as a book to share with many others. So here I am with a simple story. Keep enjoying. Alright, so before I begin, let us go through a small short passage written by A.J. Cronin in the front of the book. Life is no straight and easy corridor along which we travel free and unhampered, but a maze of passages through which we must seek our way, lost and confused now and again, checked in a blind alley. But always, if we have faith, a door will open for us, not perhaps one that we ourselves would ever have thought of, but one that will ultimately prove good for us. Who Moved My Cheese is a story about change that takes place in a maze where four amusing characters look for cheese. Cheese being a metaphor for what we want to have in life, whether it is a job, relationship, money, a big house, freedom, health, recognition, spiritual peace, or even an activity like jogging or golf. Each of us has our own idea of what cheese is, and we pursue it because we believe it makes us happy. If we get it, we often become attached to it, and if we lose it or it's taken away, it can be traumatic. The maze in the story represents where you spend time looking for what you want. It can be the organization you work in, the community you live in, or the relationships you have in your life. Believe it or not, this little story has been credited with improving careers, marriages, and lives. Okay, so with no delay, let us begin. A gathering at Chicago. One sunny Sunday in Chicago, several former classmates who were good friends in school gathered for lunch. Having attended their high school reunion the night before, they wanted to hear more about what was happening in each other's lives. After a good deal of kidding and a good meal, they settled into an interesting conversation. Angela, who had been one of the most popular people in the class, said, "Life sure turned out differently than I thought it would when we were in school. A lot has changed." "It certainly has," Nathan echoed. They knew he had gone into his family's business, which had operated pretty much the same and had been a part of the local community for as long as they could remember. So they were surprised when he seemed concerned. He asked, "But have you noticed how we don't want to change when things change?" Carlos said, "I guess we resist changing because we are afraid of change." "Carlos, you were captain of the football team," Jessica said. "I never thought I'd hear you say anything about being afraid." They all laughed, and as they realized that although they had gone off in different directions, from working at home to managing companies, they were experiencing similar feelings. Everyone was trying to cope with the unexpected changes that were happening to them in recent years, and most admitted that they did not know a good way to handle them. Then Mikhail said, "I used to be afraid of change. When a big change came along in our business, we didn't know what to do, so we didn't adjust and we almost lost it. That is," he continued, "until I heard a funny little story that changed everything." How so? Nathan asked. Well, the story changed the way I looked at change. From losing something to gaining something, and it showed me how to do it. After that, things quickly improved at work as well as in my life. At first, I was annoyed with the obvious simplicity of the story because it sounded like something we might have been told in school. Then I realized I was really annoyed with myself for not seeing the obvious and doing what works when things change. When I realized the four characters in the story represented the various parts of myself, I decided who I wanted to act like and I changed. Later, I passed the story on to some people in our company and they passed it to the others. And soon our business did much better because most of us adapted to change better. And like me, many people said it helped them in their personal lives. However, there were a few people who said they got nothing out of it. They either knew the lessons and were already living them, or more commonly, they thought they already knew everything and didn't want to learn. They couldn't see why so many others were benefiting from it. When one of our senior executives, who was having difficulty adapting, said the story was a waste of time, other people kidded him saying they knew which character he was in the story, meaning the one who learned nothing new and did not change. What's the story? Angela asked. It's called Who Moved My Cheese. The group laughed. I think I like it already, Carlos said. Would you tell us the story? Maybe we can get something from it? Sure, Mikhail replied. I'd be happy to. It doesn't take long. And so he began. Once, long ago, in a land far away, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. Two were mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two were little people beings who were as small as mice but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Hem and Haw. Due to their small size, it would be easy not to notice what the four of them were doing. But if you look closely enough, you could discover the most amazing things. Every day, the mice and the little people spent time in the maze looking for their own special cheese. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, possessing simple brains and good instincts, searched for the hard-nibbling cheese they liked, as mice often do. The two little people, Hem and Haw, used their complex brains filled with many beliefs and emotions to search for a very different kind of cheese with a capital C, which they believed would make them feel happy and successful. As different as the mice and little people were, they shared something in common every morning. They each put on their jogging suits and running shoes, left their little homes, and raced out into the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The maze was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, some containing delicious cheese, but there were also dark corners and blind alleys leading nowhere. It was an easy place for anyone to get lost. However, for those who found their way, the maze held secrets that let them enjoy a better life. The mice, Sniff and Scurry used a simple trial and error method of finding cheese. They ran down on one corridor, and if proved empty, they turned and ran down another. They remembered the corridors that held no cheese and quickly went into new areas. Sniff would smell out the general directions of the cheese using his great nose, and Scurry would race ahead. They got lost, as you might expect, went off in the wrong direction and often bumped into walls, but after a while they found their way. Like the mice, the two little people, Hem and Haw, also used their ability to think and learn from their past experiences. However, they relied on their complex brains to develop more sophisticated methods of finding cheese. Sometimes they did well, but at the other times their powerful human beliefs and emotions took over and clouded the way they looked at things. It made life in a maze more complicated and challenging. Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw all discovered in their own way what they were looking for. They each found their own kind of cheese one day at the end of one of the corridors in the cheese station C. Every morning after that, the mice and the little people dressed in their running gear and headed over to cheese station C. It wasn't long before they each established their own routine. Sniff and Scurry continued to wake early every day and race through the maze, always following the same route. When they arrived at their destination, the mice took off their running shoes, tied them together, and hung them around their necks so they could get to them quickly whenever they needed them again. Then they enjoyed the cheese. In the beginning, Hem and Haw also raced towards cheese station C every morning to enjoy the tasty new mozzarillas that awaited them. But after a while, a different routine set in for the little people. Alright, so here's a question for you. What kind of a routine did set for the little people? You can answer them in the comments below. Keep listening to listen to the other parts of the story. Have a good day.